So my name is Chloe Stroll, and I'm a graduate of the class of 2017. Babson is a school that embodies clear values and goals for its students. In our first year, we learned an acronym, ETNA, Entrepreneurial Thought and Action. Throughout the next 4 years, this acronym would constantly be said in order to inspire, encourage, and remind its students that anything can be accomplished as long as you put your entrepreneurial thought into action. Babson always gave us the opportunity to discover and pursue new interests. In my case, it was human rights. It also gave us the opportunity to expand on old ones, and again, in my case, it was fashion. Fashion has always been an interest of mine, and I was really lucky to grow up with a real fashion entrepreneur, my role model, Stroll. His combination of perseverance, creativity, and analytical skills contributed immensely to his success. To say that I am proud to be your daughter is an understatement. I am beyond lucky and I'm honored to be your daughter, and I'm really proud to be introducing you today. Throughout his journey, I was lucky enough to meet incredible people such as Tommy Hilfiger and Elle Macpherson. Tommy today is known as one of the greatest fashion pioneers, and you are one of the most humble and generous people, along with Elle, who has been a global icon, a great businesswoman, and a hands-on mother. I am super fortunate to have known you both. Therefore, without further ado, I'd love to introduce you all to the fashion icon Tommy Hilfiger, the beautiful and accomplished Elle Macpherson, and my forever role model and incredible father, Stroll. You.
Is this on? Make sure the mic is on. Do we have, can everybody hear? Yeah, great. Well, good morning. After an incredible panel you just had, I'm sure you'll enjoy our exciting panel that we're having now about fashion. And I'm also sure that I hope that everyone enjoyed last night at Amazonica. Maybe a little bit too late, a little bit vino to drink, but that's Spain. And welcome to Madrid Babson Connect. I am so excited to have such an incredible, established, honorary panel and very good friend that I can say a family friend of ours on our left-hand side, Mr. Tommy Hilfiger, and my special guests, Mr. Tommy Hilfiger, that Chloe already introduced, and Elle and Mr. Stroll. So without further ado, everybody knows that this is about fashion, and we're going to hear about these three pillars in the industry and their journey, where they've been, where they're going, and just to hear about their adventure in their life as an entrepreneur. So without further ado, I'd like to start with the females. Sorry, Tommy. Ladies first.
I understand.
Okay. Elle, you and I were able to speak a little bit yesterday about your journey and what you've done in your life as a maverick in your own industry. Could you please tell us about who gave you your break and a little bit about your story?
Sure. I think my first big break was necessity, the mother of all invention. I wanted to go to law school, and I needed to finance my legal career, and so I decided I would start modeling as a way to kind of pay for books. And yes, I was encouraged, but I certainly didn't have a long-term ambition to be in the fashion industry, certainly not for the last 35 years like I have been. So I think my first big break was that, and also having the courage to go overseas in 1982 which was supposed to be for 6 weeks, and has led me to living in Miami today.
Oh, wonderful. And would you like to share how you all three are connected?
We are friends for many, many, many years.
And I'm a huge fan of both Lawrence and Tommy, and And I urge you, I don't know if anyone's read Tommy's book, An American Dream, but he talks about his setbacks and his comebacks and how to turn a dream into a reality. And with both these guys, I have a huge amount of esteem for people who turn intangible ideas into profitable and pragmatic businesses. And that's what these guys have done. So I'm a fan.
Wow, we all are, of all of you. So, Tommy, I'd like to ask you a question. How have you seen your industries change since your career has started? And when you started in Elmira, New York, to where you are today?
Big changes have taken place over the 35 plus years I've been in the business. And one is that the competition is always changing. There was always a luxury market in the world with the Gucci's and the Chanel's, but they've come on very strong in the last 15 to 20 years. So they own a very big piece of the market. And then there are the H&M's, Zara's, and fast fashion, lower priced retailers. But we found a spot in the market that is called premium. And premium is higher end, but it's not luxury. So we say that it's the sweet spot in the industry. And when I was fortunate enough to meet Lawrence Stroll 25 years ago, Lawrence was partners with Ralph Lauren in Europe. He soon decided to sell out of the Ralph Lauren business and join me as my business partner. And from that moment onward, my business literally exploded worldwide. And it continues to grow, particularly in Southeast Asia and in Europe, double digits. And we are in this premium space in the marketplace where we are a designer brand with high quality product at affordable price points. And that really is where the world is today. So dramatic growth in China, as I said, big growth in Europe. But the growth in China is so interesting because the emerging middle class is made up of about 500 million people. And they're all buying brands. They're buying foreign brands. But what Lawrence and I didn't know when we started growing the Tommy Hilfiger business was that e-commerce was going to become so strong in the world. And so that is in itself a huge change in the entire retail business.
Wow. Okay. So Lawrence, we put our thoughts together for you for a very interesting question. And I learned something that I didn't know. You're from Canada originally. So being Canadian, how did you take your business globally? Can you please explain your journey to us?
Well, as you say, I was born in Montreal. I started to work for my father.
Your mic isn't working.
No further up, no further down.
I thought I just hold it. I have a very, very loud voice.
Yes, you do.
There you go. So as you said, I was born in Montreal, started to work for my father, who started in the fashion industry with a children's wear company in 1967, if I remember correctly. I have a tremendously close relationship. Both my parents joined my dad at a very early age of 15 or 16, started working. I wasn't the world's greatest student. I didn't go to Babson, sadly. But made up for it in different ways. And my father introduced me to a brand which we licensed in Canada when I was 17 or 18 called Pierre Cardin. And following that, met a guy called Ralph Lauren, took his license for Canada, and Ralph is the one who asked me to please go to Europe. His exact words were, I want to be the first successful American designer in Europe, and I think you could do it. Why he thought I could do it at the time, I wasn't sure because I certainly didn't know how to do business in Europe. Once I was there, I figured out why he had asked me to do it. So that's what brought me to the international side of the business. And then happily, very, very happily, after doing that for 8 or 9 years, met Tommy. Tommy came to Paris to meet me, a memorable moment, I remember it well. And that brought me, and I sold Ralph Lauren, moved to the States and to New York and became partners with Tommy.
Okay, and do you find that the market has changed since you started it back then to what it is now?
Yeah, it's day and night. Some of it Tommy touched on. I think the most dramatic change for Tommy and myself, for people who started early on in the fashion business, there's really been 3 steps of changes. When we were growing our business, as was Ralph or a Calvin or et cetera, was really driven through a wholesale concept. So the bulk of our business was selling to the Macy's, Bloomingdale, Saks Fifth Avenues of the world. And we all had a few flagship stores that were really money losing, but to give an image. That evolved 10 or 15 years ago into being a retailer. In order to be successful, you really need to own your own stores because the department stores weren't doing us a great deal of justice, hard to make money with them, no service for the customer, and which today we're seeing evolve obviously into a lot of online. So I think this significant change has been, in addition to the sectors that Tommy's mentioned, is how the consumer's shopping and where they're buying from.
Excellent, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, Elle, nobody really knows about your education. Now you just said about being a lawyer. And what message do you have for young people who are going into industry, and what would you share with them that is a must that they need to do?
That's a very interesting question because all 3 of us haven't been to school. I mean, did you go to university?
There's no way I would have
Yeah.
been accepted in a university. With all due respect to the Babson crew, I was not a good student, so I started my business when I was 17.
There you go. And Lawrence, as you said, had started his very early, and I left school when I finished and had aspirations to be a lawyer and found myself, running different sorts of businesses throughout the last time as a model. But I have 2 sons, and one of them is at Babson. And what I say to young people is that education is important. I do believe that having a strong academic foundation is a great way to start life. And that it's a sort of a win-win situation because you can always go and try any opportunities or any ideas that you have, but if your experiments don't work out, you can return to your education, and I think that's very important in this day and age.
Wonderful, okay. Lawrence, can you tell us about a passion that you have that maybe outside of the industry that has driven you to be the focused, successful man that you are today?
Actually, the appropriate word is passion. Whatever sometimes it's a gift, sometimes it's not. But whatever I've done in my life, whether it be working, whether it be raising my children, whatever it might be, I am, I guess you say, an extremist. I don't do anything.
That's an understatement.
I don't do anything in a small way. Or I'm on the rev limiter, or I'm not on the rev limiter at all. So I think being passionate has helped drive me, made me hungry for success. But I'm passionate about many things. I'm passionate about my children, I'm passionate about business, I'm passionate about food. I'm just overall an extremely passionate person.
I found yesterday in our conversation the one thing that you said, which was very interesting, that really said a lot, where you said, I'm passionate about anything I can make money.
That too.
As long as I can make money, I'm passionate about it. So I thought it was great. Tommy, would you like to share what your passion is? That's a driving force behind you?
I'm a workaholic. I'm addicted to my business and projects sort of related to it. Fortunately and excitingly enough, we have a project with your family. Fareed is my partner in the Raleigh Hotel in Miami, which we're putting under renovation now. And that's, I would say, that's been a passion of mine for a very long time. But my real passion is all about evolving the business to the next level. And that's why we married technology with fashion most recently, and have really changed the dynamic of our entire business as a result of that. We're on a world tour hosting fashion shows that are really going against the grain of where the fashion business has been. They're see now, buy now fashion shows where we have incredible celebrity models who are helping us design the clothes. Gigi Hadid is an example where we will have a runway show open to the public as well as the fashion world. And as the models are walking on the runway, the viewers can click and buy and have the fashion delivered to their homes that day or the next day. We found that the millennials want immediate gratification, they want experiences, and they want something that is really memorable. So we're really changing the whole paradigm of the fashion business that way. And our e-commerce business, as a result of that, increased 900% in the last 18 months.
Wow, so do you see that technology is a threat or support to
I
your
think it's
business today?
A tremendous support. We partnered with Facebook, we partnered with Instagram, we partnered with Snapchat,
yeah.
but also we helped develop Snapshop, where you could point and click at an outfit on the runway and it will come up on your screen, size, color, price, and a buy button. So that's really marrying technology with our industry. So we feel we're leaders in it, it's very exciting, and it's really evolving the brand forward.
Okay.
But in addition to that, I have a large family I love and love spending time with, and I think that you need passion in life.
Okay, so I think a lot of people don't know where you started off, how you started off, and if you could share that with everybody, because everybody knows you as, well, right now, my daughter's generation knows you as Tommy with Gigi.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the Gigi factor with them, with great brand, great branding. But I think a lot of people don't know how you started off, and you once shared that story with Firit and myself, and if you could share it with everybody, I think they'll get an insight of how your journey has evolved.
I grew up in a small town in the middle of New York State by the name of Elmira, New York. Very small town. I'm from a family of 9 children. I'm second oldest, first oldest boy. So I set out to work at a very young age. And during high school, I was working nights in a gas station. I saved $150. I drove my Volkswagen Bug to New York City. I bought 20 pairs of bell-bottom jeans from the streets. I brought them back to my school, sold them to my friends in the parking lot, and then ended up opening a small shop when I was 17 years old. I expanded the jeans business into college campuses, like on the Cornell campus, the Syracuse campus, excuse me. And then I had a dream to grow my own brand and build a lifestyle brand. I looked at brands like Ralph Lauren and Calvin Klein, thinking that if they could do it, I could do it. And many of my family and friends said, there's no way you could do it. And I said, no, there is a way. I know I can do it. They said, well, you have to go to design school. You have to learn how to sew, cut patterns. You have to learn all the technical. And I said, well, I'll just hire people to do that. And they said, well, you've got to be connected. And I said, I can get connected. I just go to New York City and meet people. And everybody doubted me. So I went to New York City when I was 19. I met people. I put some little bit of money together. I hired seamstresses and pattern makers and people who could do what I didn't know how to do. And I began to build a brand. And I was fortunate enough to meet some great people along the way. An Indian man by the name of Mohan Rajani helped me out in the beginning. But when I met Lawrence had already had this experience with Ralph Lauren. And we have another partner, Silas Chow, who own factories in Asia. So that helped boost the whole business. And that's the story. What I didn't tell you was that I probably made a mistake along the way, because after we took the company public in the 90s, we all made a lot of money. And as the company leveled out, Lawrence and Silas sold their shares. And then I introduced them to a guy by the name of Michael Kors. And they started backing Michael Kors. And Michael Kors became my competitor. And they started backing him with, when he was doing $25 million worth of business. And 5 years later, the market cap was $11.6 billion. So they, again, Silas and Lawrence, took an American designer and put their magic into it and built another, I would say, historical fashion story. So even though I gained a little competition along the way, I was very happy to see what they did with Michael.
Excellent. Lawrence, you've had an incredible journey, incredible adventure. You're truly adored and loved, obviously, I don't know the rest of your family, by your daughter. But for the young kids and everything, if you had to do it all over again, is there anything you would change differently about this adventure you've done in your life?
For sure, there's small things I would change. But in the overall big picture and for the purpose of this conversation, no.
Okay.
I think the two most important things, or three, is one you touched on is passion, which I feel quite content. Second is to have a vision, and tremendously important, surround yourself with the right partners who share that vision. I was very fortunate and blessed with Tommy, who's a tremendous talent. I was blessed again with Michael Kors, who was a great design talent. So I think, you're as good as the people that you surround yourself with is crucially important.
I totally agree with that 100%. So Elle, your son, being a mother, hands-on mother, who is at Babson, a sophomore as well, is our daughter Daphne. It must be difficult for kids to grow up in a family where you have such successful parents. Mm-hmm. How are you able to manage that with your son, who is an entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, to be able to guide him for his future as an entrepreneur?
Oh, gosh, that's a really good question. I think the most valuable thing I can be is me as a woman, as an entrepreneur, and as his mother. I think intuition is extremely important, and I've encouraged him to really go with his gut feelings. And if you look at my career, which, as I had mentioned earlier, I never set out to spend such a long time in the fashion industry. I started, and I needed to earn money, so I modeled, and then after that, I started to become successful in that, and then I used that success to do some merchandising, and I produced and manufactured and distributed a calendar. And then after that, while I was doing that, I was building a brand. People started to know who I was and what I represented, and they knew my name. And so then I moved into licensing, where another company that manufactured lingerie, in this case, used my name, and I started licensing. And then I evolved into being a co-founder and co-creator of a wellness business. And I think in sharing my stories with my children, they get to see how you can evolve and change and make choices that, even if things appear risky or illogical, that when you look back on your career, you can say, these were the steps I took. And it's about having courage, and I go back to the tool that we spoke about in the beginning, is the courage to take those first steps. And So these are the kind of things that I share with my son. It's really about the tools of decision making along the way, and not to be afraid to take those steps, because even if you don't know the outcome, it's about if your gut instinct tells you that that's the next right step for you, then go with it.
Was it difficult for you to change from the fashion industry to a wellness industry?
No, not really. It was actually different. What has been difficult is being going from a model to a licensee and then to sitting on a board of a company, because it's very difficult to value or put a value on the intangible. And I'm not a CEO. And people call me an entrepreneur, but really I'm a figurehead to multiple businesses along the way. And, how do you, for me, in the beginning, it was very difficult to be heard, because it was hard for me to speak about the fact that, what do I bring to the table? What do I really bring to the table? And, when you're talking about innovation, reputation, inspiration, imagination, well, they don't look very good on a balance sheet. But actually, it's that X factor, it's that sparkle, it's that 24/7 being that brand that can build a business, and that's been my experience. But not an easy one to share with a bunch of suits.
So Lawrence, I know you have the need for speed. You have that in your family. Your son is a car race driver. And from what I heard from my little bird, you love racing and having Ferraris. And that's how you got connected with Ralph Lauren, as you said yesterday. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, we actually met over buying a car. Him and I were negotiating for the same car about, actually exactly 40 years ago. He ended up with the car, and I ended up with the license for Canada.
Okay.
In hindsight, a good trade.
Good deal. So now that you're not totally out of the fashion industry, and you moved on to private equity, from what I understand as well, do you miss the game?
Actually, when I sold my last remaining shares of Michael Kors, it was always my anticipation to open my own family office, which I've done, and which I enjoy greatly. It's a very different thing than running a fashion business. I spend a tremendous amount of time, and have spent, on my son's career, who's currently a Formula One driver at the age of 18, which is quite remarkable. And I very, very much look forward to repeating the fashion experience with my daughter.
There you go.
And find something that will interest her and be able to do this one more time.
So the journey's not over yet, Chloe. No pressure. No pressure whatsoever. All right. Another thing is that Babson is very much into social responsibilities. And it's a very big passion for all of us to be able to help the ones that aren't as fortunate, or to be able to help guide and make the kids who don't have the tools to be able to make their journey complete. How do you and your company help in social responsibility, Lawrence?
Well, I think it's, in the fashion, having a large fashion company is a lot easier to bring people in various departments, whether it's PR department, whether it's design department, whether it's production department. And we've done that with all the companies over the years, and give them the guidance and really guidance to try and get out of them what it is that drives them. When I met Tommy, I knew Tommy had fantastic design ideas. We had a place, we knew where we would go with the business. Without even speaking, we were speaking. So I think it's sharing some of the lessons, life lessons that I've learned, and being able to share them with others.
Wonderful. And Tommy?
Well, when I think about sustainability, I think about what we're doing as a company. We make millions of pairs of jeans a year, and I would say that 999,000 of them are washed. And what we found over the last 5 years is that the amount of water we waste in washing and dyeing the jeans is something, is a number you wouldn't even want to hear. So we've now developed a way of washing without water. And so we're saving millions of gallons of water. At the same time, we're connected to the World Wildlife Fund, and we're building schools and hospitals in Uganda. We're really giving back. One thing we just did that is very unusual is for any fashion company is that we just created a line of clothes for people with disabilities. Thank you. There is not another designer company that ever even approached the idea of making clothes for people with disabilities. There are people who cannot button blouses or zip zippers. There are children who can't get dressed in the morning because they have braces on their legs and the pant legs are too narrow and they don't have openers or fasteners. Being a father with a couple of autistic children, I've seen firsthand that it really affects a child's self-esteem if they're not able to look and dress the way some of their schoolmates dress. And if they cannot, at 15 years old, button a blouse or get a pair of jeans on because there's a button and a zipper that they have to navigate through, it's really challenging and devastating for them. So we developed an entire line for children with disabilities, and we've just added a new line of clothes for adults with disabilities. And it's really a major program we're embarking upon worldwide now.
Okay.
And it's amazing how many people there are with disabilities who are probably even sitting in this room, but many people hide it and struggle with having to get dressed in the morning. So we set out to change that.
Well, I think on a side note, I don't think a lot of people know this, that you are probably one of the biggest donators for the charity for autism.
Yes.
And that is a very honorable cause. And hopefully they'll find a breakthrough to be able to help these kids who are just a little bit different than the rest of us. And I commend and I'm very honored that you do such a cause.
Thank you.
I'm honored to have such prestigious people on our panel here. I know that there was lots of questions I think that a lot of people would like to ask, but unfortunately it's not a Q&A right now, but I would like to ask just one thing, and then we'll all tie it up, is tell us something that a lot of people don't know about yourself. All three of you, just one thing that people don't, like I could say.
Let's start with Lawrence.
Lawrence, what is something that a lot of people don't know and would say, and that learned from you and walk away today by saying, wow, I didn't know that, and I just learned that. So what could you share with us that people don't know about you, that you could learn about yourself? Please.
I love vodka martinis.
Oh, excellent, okay.
Very honest.
That's wonderful. Great. You walked in with one yesterday, and I didn't even know where you got that. So, okay. Elle?
I have two children that are half French, and I speak fluent French. I learned when I was 18 because I went to Paris modeling, and I was so beside myself that I couldn't communicate. And it was hard enough being a model and being perceived as dumb, but not being able to speak the language was just too much for me. So I learned in about 6 months. I read a lot of French fairy tales, and I sung Charles Trenet songs. I have a terrible voice, but I sang a lot of French songs and Edith Piaf and So I learned to speak French, and then I married Frenchmen, and then I had 2 French kids, and the story goes on. So I don't know if a lot of people know that about me.
No, that's a great thing. That's great. Tommy?
I'm obsessed with music. When I was a teenager, I wanted to play guitar, but I was terrible. So I decided to make myself look like a rock star. And
That's why you put it inside on your shows and your fashion shows.
That's
You
right.
always have music. Exactly.
I grew my hair long. I was wearing bell bottoms, and I made myself look like a rock star. So that really led me into the fashion business. But I've been so obsessed with music and the whole, I would say, adaptation of bringing music stars into the brand. It has, I think, allowed me to sort of infuse pop culture into everything I do. So I say now I'm obsessed with fame, F-A-M-E, fashion, art, music, entertainment.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to, without further ado, I'd like to say thank you all for taking the time. Your time is very precious because time is the best commodity that we can have to give this Babson Connect Worldwide 2018 Madrid a memory, which I'm sure our panel will never be forgotten because of all the interesting stories you have about your life and your journey. And I hope to see more of it and to be able to hear more of it. And I hope that everybody keeps in touch with Babson about that. I know Chloe will, because she's Babson's girl. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Really.